right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. So first of all, this is the home button right here. I'm always going to do everything that I do when I'm teaching you guys. I'm always going to do it from the home screen. There are multiple ways to get to different places inside Jobber, but I'm always going to show you from the home screen so that you know at the very least, no matter what, you can always just click on the home button and then click into whatever you want to click into. So a job came in. It's definitely your job, right? You're going to do this job. So the first thing you want to do is just simply create the job in Jobber. You want the job to exist as its own entity that you can't forget about. So to create anything, you're going to click create. Now you could go to jobs and create a job from there, but again, I'm going to show you everything from the home screen. Create. That's going to pop out this little list. Click on job. Now, by the way, as I show you how to create this job, we haven't started yet, but now we're inside the job screen. As I show you how to create this job, I'm going to talk a lot, and it's going to take forever to get down here to the bottom, and it's going to feel like I've told you way more stuff than you can remember. Don't worry. When we get to the bottom, I'm going to go back and create this job again, and you're going to see that this is actually like 12 steps and 45 seconds to do. So first, I'm going to talk you through it, though. So we're going to always do these the way you read a book, which is left to right, top to bottom. So the first thing on the top left is job for client name. You need to have a client. As a property manager serving sort of company, I have all my clients in here. My clients are repeat. Hopefully yours will become repeat. But for me, I'm going to be able to just click a client. For you, you may need to click create new client and create the client. If you do, I don't need to explain this. You put the first name here, you put the last name here, you put the company name here. You fill in the blocks with whatever you need to fill in the blocks with, and you save it, and then you have the client. But like I said, for me, I just get to click a client because they're already in here. Once you pick your client, the next thing is to choose the property, right? Because I work with property managers, I have multiple properties per manager, so I'm going to have this big drop-down list. On some of them, it's over 1,000 properties long. This is my demo account, by the way, so none of this is real as far as clients and property managers and properties. But you clicked your property, you clicked your client, right? And then it immediately brought up this new screen to select or create property. So again, you can click create new property, fill in the blanks, or you can click one that's already on here. Let's do Speedway. So now I've got that it's a job for Mr. Billy Bob with a property address. The next thing I'm going to do, always, I do this, by the way, whether it's a quote, an invoice, doesn't matter what it is. There's always going to be some kind of title or subject line at the top. I'm always going to copy the address of the property and paste it in there and then say briefly what it is. So this one, I'm going to say toilet. And when I speak of this job, if I'm talking to somebody else, I'm just going to say like Speedway Toilet. Speedway being the street name, toilet being what the job is. You're going to find that common in this industry. So I've copied and pasted the address with a brief description of what the job is about. I leave the instructions line blank. You'll see later on what I might use that for, but I do that down on a different line. So I leave that blank. Again, I'm showing you how I use this software. Now, everything you see over here, except for salesperson and job number, these are automatically in the software. Everything you see from tenant contact down, these are custom fields that I created. That's one of the things you can do in Jobber is create custom fields for things that you want. So for my property managers, I'm typically going to need to put something in the tenant contact. So like Mike, and then Mike's number here, whatever his phone number is. And then I'm going to need a work order number. Most of my property managers have a work order number that they would like for me to keep attached to all my jobs to reference their jobs through my software if necessary. And then the rest of these are, some of these are samples that I made up. You can make your own if you want your own. So we're scrolling down. We're still creating a job. Pick one-off or recurring. Recurring is like if you're a pool maintenance guy and you're going to be going to the same address every other Wednesday or whatever. Otherwise, it's always a one-off job. And then schedule. So if you already set a schedule for this, then you can just choose the date. Maybe you scheduled it for the 22nd at 8 a.m. I will tell you what I do, though, is I always click schedule later because I sit down to do scheduling multiple jobs all at once. So what I want to do is I want to set them as scheduled later. And then under the schedule tab, which I'm not going to click into, but under the schedule tab, you can filter a map of your town. You can see the map and filter it to show only your unscheduled jobs as little pins on the map. And then you can go, oh, look, there's 3 of them up here together. Let me schedule those 3 for the same day so that I can just go to that one part of town instead of shooting all over the place. So I'm going to say schedule later. And then under team, I can assign myself, Ray Duke, or I can assign other people. Like if I have a cleaner that I'm assigning to this job, and then I click this button, and now Linda is going to get an email telling her that I've assigned her to a job. She'll be able to log into my Jobber account through her personal login, where it's going to show her jobs and track her time and all of those good things. And then you can attach a job form if you want to. I have it set to automatically attach this to every single job. And these job forms, these are all forms that you make if there's forms that you want to have attached to your jobs. And I've got videos on how to make those. Now, line items. This is an important one for my business specifically. My first line item is always going to be the exact same thing. Original request. This is going to be a copy and paste of the original request. So if a property manager texts me and he doesn't capitalize anything, he doesn't use any punctuation, he misspells half the words, I don't care. It's a direct copy and paste of exactly the request I received. The reason for this is when I finish this job, I'm going to invoice. And sometimes a client's going to come back and say, hey, you invoiced for X, and I didn't ask you to do that. Why did you do that? I'm going to come back to the original request, and if I'm correct, if I did everything right, that original request is going to imply that they wanted me to do that. And I'm going to be able to send them that original request and say, hey, look at that original request. That's a copy and paste of exactly what you asked me for, and that's why I did that. Or vice versa, they're going to say you didn't do something that I did want you to do, and I'm going to send that original request to them and say, this is what you asked me for. But this is my way of always knowing exactly what was requested so I can figure out, and maybe I was wrong, but I need to be able to figure out, did I stay in scope? So original request, let's say master toilet constantly running. Oops, spelled that wrong. I guess I could have just, if they spell it wrong, I don't correct it, so I guess I didn't need to correct it. Master toilet constantly running, and that's all I'm going to put there. So this right here, you might think would go under instructions, or maybe instructions I would say fix master toilet, but I don't put any of that. All I do is I put the original request here, so when I show up on the job, or an employee or a subcontractor who's inside my software, when they show up on the job, they're going to see master toilet constantly running, and they're going to understand the instructions are make that problem go away. I could just say, up here, I could just always say, make the problem go away. That's the instructions. And what's the problem? The problem is master toilet constantly running. And when we're all said and done, I'm going to go ahead and save this job, and boom, the job will be saved. Click that save button. Now we've saved this job. We scheduled it. We showed up to the job. We're looking at the toilet. We got the toilet fixed. And what we're going to do, because we saw that this said master toilet constantly running, we're in our phone, by the way, using the Jobber app on the phone or a tablet usually on the job. And we fixed the toilet. We replaced the fill valve in the toilet. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down on the job. We're going to come down here to internal notes, and we're going to say, so I would type this if I'm doing my job right and treating myself like an employee, or my employee or my subcontractor is going to type out a description of the work they did inside the internal notes. The other thing they're going to do is upload a picture of the work they did. So click select file, and we'll just choose, it doesn't really matter what the picture is, but we'll throw a picture in there to imply that we did the job, we typed a description of what we did, we uploaded a picture of what we did. Go ahead and save that. So on the job, right, you typed your description of the work you did, you uploaded a picture of the work you did. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to come to your visit. On these jobs, you can create multiple visits. The first visit is just, it's like a base visit for every job because you got to visit at least once if it's a job. You can add new visits by clicking this button. So if you want, you can send 3 different people or the same person on 3 different trips. But you're going to click on your visit at that job. And then your employee or your subcontractor, or hypothetically you, can click mark complete. And now all you're doing is marking the visit complete. You're not saying the job itself like internally to the company, is done and closed out. You're just saying my visit is complete. And then once you've clicked that to say your visit is complete, now you're going to have some options. Are you going to close the job because the visit's complete? Are you going to schedule a new visit? Or are you going to just leave it as action required? As somebody trying to run a business and trying to keep it on systems and keep everything the same with subcontractors and employees, I'm going to say leave as action required. And that's because I don't ever want anyone other than me deciding that a job is actually closed out. So that's going to leave as action required. And we're done with that. So this job's wrapped up. You can leave the house now. You did your description, you uploaded your picture, and you closed out your visit, and you said, mark complete, leave as action required. Now, I forgot one other thing I was going to show you is I'm going to make this job this fast so you can see how fast this software is. So I'm going to not necessarily remake this job, but I'm just going to make a job. So let's go home. And then let's go click create job, and somebody time this. Where's the time? I'll start it at exactly 20 minutes. I got my timer right over here. 56, 57, 58, 59, 20 minutes. All right. Client name, pick a client, pick an address, copy, paste. Toilet. Maybe this is Mike 520-548-8741. I'm just making stuff up, guys. Work order number is whatever random letters and numbers they gave me for a work order number. One-off job, schedule later, assign to myself, email myself. Don't need that form attached. Original request. Master toilet constantly running, and save. There we go. 20 minutes and 52 seconds. That's less than a minute to create that job inside the Jobber software. All right, so we created a job, and then we went to the job, and we did the job, and we typed in a description of what we did into the internal notes. We uploaded a picture of what we did into the internal notes. We clicked on the trip, or the visit rather. We clicked on the visit, marked the visit complete because it was complete. And then when it said, do we want to close the job, schedule a new visit, or leave as action required, we chose leave as action required. So we marked it as leave as action required, and we're done. Like, right, we're driving on to the next job. We're moving on about our day. The next thing that needs to happen is an invoice needs to get written now that that's all closed out. So how do we do invoices? I'm going to show you how I do this with my business. Here's how I'm going to invoice. I'm going to go preferably daily. I'm going to come down to this jobs tab, and I'm going to open up the jobs tab. I clicked on the jobs tab, and what you're going to see in here is at the top of this jobs tab, the first jobs that it lists have a little thing that says late. All your late jobs are going to show first. Late jobs are jobs that you did schedule, but that scheduled time has passed and nobody's done anything. Nobody's closed it out. So those are late. The next things on the tab that are going to pop up are going to be requires invoicing. These are going to be jobs that you closed out completely. Not that you marked the visit complete, but that you fully closed out and for some reason haven't invoiced. Those are going to show up next. After that is going to be action required. So what I'm going to do, action required tells me that somebody went to the job, me or somebody else, went to the job, did the work, put the work description in, took a picture, uploaded the picture, and then closed out the visit and left as action required. That's how I know a job's been completed but not invoiced. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to open up the job, whether I did it or somebody else did. I'm going to open up this job, and the first thing I'm going to do, just right away, scroll straight to the bottom and see that there it is, installed new fill valve, tested good, and there's a picture of the new. Of course, that's not actually the new fill valve. That's a thumbnail that I made for today's live stream, actually. But I'm going to just scroll straight to the bottom, make sure that description looks good, make sure I understand what was done, compare that description to the original request, and make sure we did, in fact, address every issue that the original request asked us to address, and that we didn't address issues that it didn't ask us to address. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to look, and I'm generally not going to copy and paste this, because I'm going to use my wording up here. So I wrote when I was on the job, I just said installed new fill valve, tested good. up here, what I'm going to do now inside the job, and I'm going to point something out. I don't want to confuse y'all with too many options. You can do what I'm about to do from inside the job, or you can close this job out, generate an invoice, and then do this from inside the invoice. I've been doing it from inside the job forever. I don't know why. I don't know if I should or shouldn't. It's just what I do. It's how I do it. So from still inside, because we're in a job right now. We're not in an invoice yet. All we did was open up the job because it was left as action required. We double checked that we had our description and our picture. We made sure everything looked good. And then I'm going to come to new line item here, and I'm going to say labor. And this is what I'm going to do on everything except a move out. You're going to see how I do move outs next. But on everything that's not a move out or a large vacant property with a huge punch list, there's going to be a line that says labor. And on that line, I'm just going to type what we did. There we go. Found fill valve to be faulty and not repairable. Installed new fill valve, tested toilet multiple times, and found toilet to no longer be running. And the price is my trip fee. I want to point out to you guys, I get this question a lot. As you can see, nothing says trip fee. Trip fee is a word that I use because it's a word that my property managers use. You can think of it as trip minimum. You can think of it however you want, but I'm never going to charge less than $150. So everything that I charge less than $150 for as an add-on to another job, like my fill valves are probably, I think they're like $47. So if this was a trip fee and then I'm itemizing everything, then the fill valve is going to be like $47. But because this is a one-off, it's the only thing I did here, and I don't go anywhere for less than $150, then I'm going to say labor, not trip fee. I'm just going to call it labor, describe the labor, and the price is $150. Save. Next, I need to account for the materials because that's only the labor. Now, I want you to notice something here. I'm going to type fill, and when I type fill, you're going to get these pop-ups here. So there it is right there. Labor, comma, toilet, comma, fill valve, assembly, comma, replace, 47. That's an add-on price. Now what I'm doing is materials. So I type the word fill, and look here under products, I have materials. One of my custom line items has popped up. $24. The pricing is already set for those materials. I don't have to type any of that out. Hit save. So now I've got my labor and I've got my materials accounted for. There's nothing else to do here. So you can just scroll all the way up. Where are we at? Oh, we don't need to do anything else because we already saved that line item. There's not even like a general save for the whole page because everything has been saved. Again, you can type some internal notes out here, or you can upload files if you want. Those are going to stay internal. I don't have anything additional to add to it. So all I did from within the job is the original request was already here, so I added labor and I added the materials, and now we've got our total. So now I'm going to come up here to more actions, and I'm going to click close job. And once I've clicked, the reason I closed it, right, is because there's nothing left to do. I need to invoice now. That's the only thing left to do is invoice. So I close the job out, and then boom, you can see these buttons changed at the top. And now I can click generate invoice. And I do want to point out to you again, there are multiple ways to get to these pages. You don't always come to the generate invoice button from up here. There's a lot of different ways the software works, and I'm not trying to confuse anybody, so I'm showing you the most basic way. But now we can click first, I want to keep this. I'm going to copy that and just try to keep this in my clipboard all the time. Just in case it's not there anymore, it is now. So I'm going to click generate invoice, and this screen right here is going to show you any jobs that have been completed but not invoiced if on that job you clicked the button that says send invoice reminder or whatever. I can't even remember what the button says because I don't ever worry about it, and I'm only ever doing one at a time. But it's going to always have auto selected the job you just came here from. Whatever job you're working on is auto selected. Any other ones it shows, those are just, it's just like, hey, maybe, I don't know, were you wanting to invoice this other job? Well, no, I'm not. I'm just invoicing the one that we were on. So next step. Here's your invoice screen now. It says invoice for Mr. Billy Bob. So I'm going to paste right into that subject line there. I'm going to paste 5744 East Speedway Boulevard toilet. Oh, I don't even need to add anything. That's fine. All of this stays the same. I don't need to adjust anything. I'm going to double check all of this. I'm going to make sure my original request is still there. For labor and materials, I'm going to check quantities. If I did 2, I want to make sure that it says 2. Sometimes I'll do 2 of something and I'll change my labor to 2 and I'll forget to make my materials 2, and then I shortchange myself materials money. So this is a good screen to just double check your quantities on and make sure those are correct. And then you can add a discount, you can add tax, you can add a deposit, you can do a lot of stuff. You really don't need to worry about anything right here, right? As long as your pricing is correct up here, you just leave all this alone, scroll all the way to the bottom, and right here you have one of 2 options. And for me, which option I choose is based on who the client is. So here's what I'll typically do with my biggest client. I'll click Save Invoice, which I'm not going to do right now because I want to show you other stuff. And I'm going to download it as a PDF because I'm going to go over to that property manager's, to their software and upload that PDF to their software. That's how I submit invoices to them. Everybody receives invoices differently. But what I'm going to show you, because you'll probably be doing this even more actually, is, and with my other big property manager client, this is what I'll do. So this invoice is done. I'm happy with it. At the bottom, I'm going to say save and then as you can see, you can send it as a text message or as an email, or if you already have a card on file and you have permission, you could just go straight to collecting payment. But generally what you're going to do, if this is like maybe a quick one-off for a homeowner and they're going to pay you on the spot, you could do send as text message. They'll get a text on their phone. They can click on it and just pay securely with like Google Pay or whatever it is they use. They can pay securely through their phone. Or you can save and send as email. And again, they can do the same thing. They can open up the email, click on the link, pay securely online. I'm going to use send as email with one of my bigger clients because that's how they receive all of their invoices from me. So when you click that, it's going to pop up with whatever email address you already have assigned to them. If you need to add another person, then you can also add another person. So maybe somebody else from the office needs to be CC'd on this one, so you can add another person, and you can also just type out, you know, the email address letter for letter right there. So right here, you can change the subject. You can also go into the settings and change how the subject line is automated. You can also edit the writing here, this generic message. And you can also go into the settings in Jobber and change what that generic message is always going to be by default. I just leave it all alone. They know that whatever this says doesn't really matter. They're just looking for the invoice. If you need to attach the picture, this picture right here, this is from those internal notes. This is hypothetically, this is the picture of the toilet that we fixed. So if I need to send a picture of the completed work along with my invoice to the property manager, I can click this button right here, and that's going to automatically attach that picture to the email. You can also click this to attach a PDF of the invoice. I don't think that's necessary. You can if you want. And then send email. And now that property manager is going to receive that invoice in an email, or that client, whoever the client is. Just to show you what I was talking about earlier, now that we're inside this job and it's been saved and we're no longer creating it, here's that More Actions button. So you can do More Actions, download PDF, and it'll bring up the PDF of this, and then you can, I do Save As, and it's going to take me into my folder where I save all of my invoices. So that's how I do that. So far, we've created a job. I took you through the whole process of creating a new job when it comes in. Then I took you through the process of what I do on the job when I finish that job, in person, at the site, as far as uploading the picture and stuff. Then I showed you when you get home, or you being the owner, if your other guys are out there doing work, how you go into jobs, you click on jobs, you go into your jobs, you find the ones that are left as action required, and then we invoice those. Pretty simple stuff so far. Next is going to be creating an estimate. This is the neat one. I think you'll like this one. So create, by the way, this says quote. There's also a setting in here in Jobber that you can go and you can say, I always want it to say quote, or I always want it to say estimate. Whichever one you choose across the platform, it'll use the word estimate or it'll use the word quote. Some people care. I don't care. To me, there's no time where I'm giving you a number, but it's a fuzzy number. If I'm giving you a number, that's my number. If I say I'm going to do this job for this much money, that's what it is. If it's a ballpark, then I'm just going to tell you verbally, you know, here's a ballpark number. But the moment I put it in writing and send it to you, it's set in stone, and I'm agreeing to do that job for that number. So again, we click Create Quote. Now, there is templates you can make. In fact, Jobber has a lot of really new features for creating quotes that I don't use. They make insanely beautiful quotes. It will pull in your Google reviews. It'll do this beautiful stuff and make these amazing quotes that apparently have a way higher acceptance rate. I haven't dove into all of that and learned all of that because it's just not something I need. I have property managers, and when they want to quote, they're not looking for me to wow them with a beautifully presented quote. They just want to know how much the damn thing is going to cost. So I just tell them how much it's going to cost. So I'm going to go into create new quote, but at some point I'll dive into their extra fancy, extra special quote template stuff, and we'll see how that all works too. But for now, let's just go create new quote. And again, just as you can see, these screens kind of stay the same, right? We're going to go left to right, top to bottom. So pick the client. We'll do Fancy Nancy. Pick a property. We'll do Medina Road. Again, always just immediately go straight to copy and paste. I don't even think about it. My hand just does it. And this is going to be move out estimate. So tenant contact, it's a move out, it's vacant, so there's no tenant. So I'm going to say vacant, and then I'm going to put the code. There's going to be a key box with a code. So 123456 is the key box code. Work order number, if the property manager has a work order number, we'll put that in there. All the rest of these, again, these are custom fields that I've created. Y'all can create your own, but we don't need to worry about these. Those are just custom fields I made. Now, here's what I want you to see. You can add sections to here. You can add an introduction, and your introduction is like a picture of you and your family. Hey, you know, blah, 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 property maintenance company. We've been serving our local community for 18 plus years. We support the local baseball team, and you should definitely choose us to do your work. I'm not going to do all that. So here's the first thing I'm going to do. We're already at the line items to build this quote. So the first thing is actually going to be original request. I'm not going to put original request in here, but just know, just like on the job, the first line item is going to be original request. It's going to be a copy and paste of whatever they asked for. But the second line item, really the first important line item, watch this, trip, and then boom, it auto-populates from my custom line items, trip fee, comma, move out, which says, this line item covers the trip fee for a move out and includes the following: admin, receiving, assigning, parts ordering, invoicing, also includes drive time, inspecting and measuring, trips for acquiring materials, and general cleanup and waste disposal. What you should gather from this is that this trip fee does not cover any work. I'm going to charge you on a move out because there's so many items and so many measurements, so many possible trips to Home Depot, maybe multiple trips to the job site itself. I'm going to charge a flat $125 fee, which is probably going up to $150 soon. I'm going to charge this flat $125 fee right off the bat, and it doesn't include any work. You can download all of these, all of my custom line items that auto-populate, which there's 150 of them at least right now. All of them were made at some particular point in time for some particular reason, when my pricing was at some particular place and when my description was some particular description. It's not necessarily the same anymore. These are not all vetted, and these are not intended for you to copy and paste directly into your business. They're for you to copy and edit into your business so that you edit them to say what you want them to say, not what I want them to say. Jesse said, I have your docs and they have been super helpful. Awesome. So the first line on this estimate, and again, once we get to this portion right here where we're gonna start adding line items. When we get to this portion right here, it's just like creating the invoice. There is no difference really, other than we can add these optional line items and we can add text. But the reason I point that out is when you see me use my custom line items, just know if I just did a move out that didn't have any kind of budget attached to it, I just did the move out and now I'm home invoicing, what you're about to see is the same process for invoicing as it is for quoting. The only difference is when I'm invoicing, I'm going to be saying add line item. When I'm quoting, I'm going to be saying add optional line item. Optional line items, I think are available to you on Jobber on the Connect plan and above. Don't quote me on that, but I think Connect plan and above, you can do optional line items. They were the big selling point for me when I first upgraded my Jobber a long time ago. The first time I upgraded, it was to get these optional line items because I was writing estimates and I was including additional things that I found. And what they ended up doing was saying, yeah, we'll approve 5 of those 10 extra things you found. Now we need you to rewrite the quote. So I kept having to rewrite quotes. And yes, it doesn't take that long, but what's a lot easier is to make everything an optional line item, because then they can just select or deselect and I don't have to rewrite the quote. And believe it or not, that saved me a few hours a month just not rewriting quotes. Jesse said, I love the drywall kit and kits in general. Yeah, man, me too. They're the future of this business for sure. For me, they're the future of my business. Joe said, same, very helpful. I have my property manager folder ready to go and we'll be visiting 40 plus local property managers on August 1st. That is awesome, man. Really awesome. I love that. All right, so we're writing this move out estimate and we've got trip fee, comma, move out. This is not an optional line item. They cannot deselect it. It is $125 no matter what. If you don't want to approve that, you can't approve anything. Next optional line item. So let's say, well, let's just do fill valve. Maybe there's a toilet running. So I type in fill, there's labor. Well, I'm not even going to read it all. There you go. In fact, let's say there's 2 of them. And then, actually, do I want to? Yeah, I'm going to show you this right now. Here's what I want you to notice. So we've got a trip fee of $125 and we've got an optional line item of this fill valve, 2 of them at $47, which brings us to $94. But if you look at the subtotal here, it says $125. Well, this is $125 plus $94. Why does the subtotal say $125? What I want you to do right now is I want you to stare at this $125, and I'm going to come over here to this optional line item, and I'm going to click recommend. Don't watch me click. Watch the $125 as I click right now. Now, because I clicked recommend item, now it's going to add it to the subtotal. So you get to decide as you build these if you're going to recommend or not. If you do recommend everything, they're going to receive an email that says, you know, your estimate is ready for a total of $2,300. And then they have the option of deselecting things to make it cheaper. Or they can get an email that says your estimate is ready for $125, and then they're going to have to go in and click things to bring that price up. I prefer to leave everything unselected, and they build the price as they go. I want them to feel like they're asking for work to get done, knowing what the price is, rather than feeling like it's really expensive and they're trying to find a way to make it cheaper. I want the feeling to be that they are intentionally adding the work and adding the cost. All right, so we did a toilet fill valve, blah, blah, blah. Next is always going to be next. Don't ever forget the material. So let's add another optional line item. We'll type fill again. And this time, it's popping up differently than I expect to see it. But there's materials, comma, toilet, comma, fill valve, $24. There we go. And 2. Let's do a doorstop. Add optional line item, DORS, and then boom, labor, comma, doorstop, comma, install, $8 each. Maybe there were 6 of them on this house. And then we're going to add an optional line item, DORS again, and this time we're going to click materials, comma, doorstop, $5. And as you see, I've got my descriptions on these already. You should have bigger, better descriptions too, by the way. And let's add another optional line item. What else do we do? Let's do mini blinds, mini labor, comma, mini blinds, comma, install, $25. Let's do 3 sets of those. As you can see, man, it's doing all this itself. And if I want to, like I said at the beginning, we can click recommend item on literally all of these. And it'll start totaling it all up down here. 3 sets of mini blinds. Now, for the next one, though, mini blinds, you can't really standardize the pricing on. So now let's say I'm going to hand type materials, comma, mini blinds, comma, vinyl 1 inch. Oh, spelled that wrong. vinyl 1-inch. And I have to go look up the price of this on Home Depot, or just go, I know off the top of my head generally what they're going to cost because I do so many of them. But let's say 3 like kind mini blinds, except I'm going to, probably capitalize everything and put a period or whatever. 3 like kind mini blinds, and I've totaled them up myself to come out to $126. Recommend item. So as you can see, guys, you just keep going down and down and down and down and down. If it's something that doesn't have a custom line item, then you just type it out. But I recommend always saying labor, comma, and then what it is, and then having a separate line for materials, comma, and then what it is. Also want to point out really quick, you can add a text box. So this is going to be for notes maybe. And as you can see, the only difference when you click this add text is there's no pricing lines over here. And this is where you can just write notes to your property manager or to your client for whatever you want those notes to be. Another thing for you to know with these optional line items is if you want to do an upgrade. So you might do like labor, comma, faucet, comma, install new for the kitchen. And then you're going to have a line that says materials, comma, faucet, comma, standard Glacier Bay market faucet with a price. And then you might come down and you might have another one that says materials, comma, faucet upgrade. And maybe faucet upgrade costs $50 more, but it's going to be a nicer faucet. You can do that with these optional line items as well. That's actually what Jobber built them for. That's just not what I use them for. I don't use them for upgrades. I just make it all optional, and then you build your own quote, basically. So we're all the way down here at the bottom now. We've got this quote built out. It could be 80 more items if you want it to be. If you want to add a discount, you can click this button and you can add a percentage-based discount. Let's say we want to do 50% off. You can just click that, or you can just do a dollar-based discount, and now it's just $50 off. Either way, I don't do any discounts. I don't think they're necessary because I'm working for businesses, but it's pretty rare for me to do any kind of discount. And then required deposit, however, can be much more frequent. And again, this can be percentage based. And for me, it's almost always, if I'm asking for a deposit, I'm just doing a very standard 50% down. So that's going to ask them for a deposit. When you do the deposit, if they go to approve this, when they open this quote on their end, without a deposit, there's going to be a button that they can click to approve the quote. If there's a deposit required, the button's going to say something like approve and pay deposit, and it's going to prompt them directly into entering their credit card information or whatever they need to do to pay that deposit. And as you can see, add sections. So you can add attachments, you can add images, you can add, if you click reviews. So if your Jobber account is connected to your Google business account, then clicking the reviews button will add your best Google reviews to this estimate. It's gonna, the whole long estimate's gonna be multiple pages, and somewhere in there is gonna be this beautifully made section that's gonna highlight some of your great Google reviews. Again, I don't use any of that at all. I just don't feel it's necessary for my business, but they do have a lot of great quoting features if you want to make beautiful quotes, because homeowners sometimes care about beautiful quotes. Next, client message. You can type your own personal message here, or you can create a default message that's always here by going into the settings. There's a lot to explore in the settings. Then contract or disclaimer. This is an example one that I built on ChatGPT. You shouldn't try to use mine. It's not there for that purpose. I'll try to get one for you eventually, but there's so much to do on these that, I mean, you can go all the way from like an 87-page contract built by a lawyer that no homeowner's ever going to sign, or you can have a half-page contract that every homeowner's willing to sign but doesn't really protect you, and somewhere in the middle is the correct answer. So don't copy and paste mine, but if you have a contract and disclaimer uploaded, it'll automatically attach it to every single one of these. You don't really need internal notes, but you can add them like anything else. And then, of course, you can either click save and then download the PDF, or you can click save and send as email, send as text message. You can convert it directly to a job or mark as awaiting response. Most of the time, you're going to click save and send as email. And then you're going to send this, you're going to just click send email, and that'll send it off to the client. Now, one thing, I feel like there's one thing I wanted to show you that I didn't show you. Yes, that's right. I wanted you to see, let's go into edit because I saved it already. So as you're building this little camera icon right here, you can upload a picture where this is. So for everything that you're telling them that you're going to work on, you can upload a different picture for each of those things. And it's just going to make your quote a little nicer. Your picture is either like a picture of the new faucet you'll install, or maybe if you did your own inspection, then each of these is going to be a picture of the broken thing that you found so they can see that it's actually broken. And there you have it. You can update quote, or again, if you updated it, you can click update and send as email. And then make sure everything's what you want it to be and click send email. So there we go. We created a job, we invoiced that job, and we've created and sent an estimate or a quote. No more questions. Awesome, man. Awesome. Cool. Well, I tell you what, I love you guys. I hope y'all are out there killing it, and I'll see y'all on the next one.